welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. I've got yet another root over rock. Now this one, I really couldn't tell you exactly how old it is. And I got, of course, I have weeds and plenty of my, growing in plenty of my plants. I usually kind of pull them out a little bit more. But anyway, I do remember, I'm going to guess that I've had it at least 3 years. It's probably one of the first cuttings I ever really had that I tried to put on a rock. And the cutting really probably wasn't healthy enough. And then I was really even convinced at that time that you could just put anything in full sun, even if it wasn't fully healthy. And I do remember that I had it out there in some full sun, and it really kind of went down to nothing for a bit. I put it in the shade, kind of really neglected it for a while. Found it with just all kinds of mold and moss and all kinds of other crazy stuff on there. Cleaned it up a little bit, and now I've kind of had it back out in full sun for a while, regaining health. And I was going to wait till next spring to do this, but I figure if I do this now, I can go ahead and maybe work it a little more in the spring and like really see what I've got. It's in nothing but potting soil. You'll see that in a minute when I get it up out of there. You can see here, you know, these were or are roots. They have been exposed long enough to where they kind of appear like a trunk. This trunk is really, I mean, sometimes unique looking doesn't necessarily make it good, but I mean, it's unique looking in that basically I think at one point the dirt was up to here, and this is now root that has been exposed. It still doesn't have the greatest grip on the rock. It needs to be pruned really badly. I mean, I have been just kind of letting it go just in the hopes of like just building a big trunk and everything, which it finally has. It finally got big enough to match the rock. So what I'm going to do, I would like to save some of these growing tips so that as I repot it tonight, it's going to go ahead, you know, it'll go with the growing tips or what signal it to grow roots. But I do want to prune it significantly. I'm going to do that first. Then I'll probably get under here and take the roots off, you know, down there, pull it out, and then hopefully I may have just enough daylight left outside to kind of get out there and hose off some of the dirt, although I may not even need to, but we'll see. But the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of get in here, and there's a whole bunch of just branches coming from bad spots and coming from crotches of other branches, and it'll just kind of open it up a little bit so I can see a little bit better what's going on. But I don't want to prune it completely until I kind of get it in its new pot, because I may or may not wind up changing the angle a little bit and everything. A lot of that's just going to depend on what I see when I get in here. If I haven't mentioned it already, I have another bulb pan ready that's a little bit smaller than this. I'd like to probably change the angle just a little bit so that it's a little more able to kind of be a tree and like have that grip on the rock or whatever. See what that might look like from that way. But I won't really know what I'm going to be able to do until I really get in here and see what I've got. Probably leave that for now just to see how it turns out. And so, obviously, before I get it up out of there, I'm going to have to get these roots out of here. Ah. This pair of pruners I have gotten pretty dull, so I'm trying to just use them either outside in the yard or for things like pruning roots, because that's pretty much what made them dull. And of course sometimes I still use them on kind of whenever I do just kind of quote unquote hedge prune these too, because of the sap that comes off. So what we've got. I did just fertilize. I fertilize February, then again in May. I try not to do it through the peak of the rainy season, and then right at the end of the rainy season, I fertilize again. think sometimes if you fertilize too much in the rainy season, all it does is wash away. And I mean, especially here in Florida, that's why they say we get some of our red tide and stuff is over fertilization. Of course, I think a lot of that comes from over fertilization of golf course greens and things like that. It doesn't really have much to do with people keeping their little bonsai trees and everything, but still, I try to do my part. And of course, it wound up with a nice, I say circling roots in the shape of the pot. And said I would guess probably around 3 years worth. Of course, some of the 3 years wasn't all that healthy. And now that I got some of that worked out there, I do believe, like I've been doing when I repot a lot of these ficus trees, I'm going to go out there and just hose off all this potting soil. With the exception of maybe really, really small cuttings, I think I'm going to stop using potting soil altogether. I'm just going to use nothing but good substrate. Yeah, I don't really have a way to set up any video outside yet. I should. Well, you know what? I might even just be able to cut a lot of that off. With the root over rock, you're looking a little bit more for having them kind of draped over the rock, not really looking for nabare necessarily. Alright, I'm going to go outside and hose these down, and we'll be right back. Alright, so this is what I came up with here. I would have tried to kind of bare root it just a little bit more than I did, but it actually does have a better hold on the rock than I thought it might. So I'm going to go ahead, and actually I had a rectangular training pot, actually a little bit smaller than this one. This thing here I just kind of use upside down in this mixing tub, mainly for my videos, but I had a rectangular one a little smaller than that. This one's plastic. I don't really know what the other one is. It's not pottery, but it's not plastic. But I'm actually going to put it right back into what I had it in, just simply because I do want it raised up a bit from where it is. This is shaped like a cone, so it'll always unpot really easy, if you know what I mean by unpotting or whatever. And I'd like to, I already have this, I already have about, I got the substrate filled up to about there. You guys can't really see that, about where that finger is there or whatever. But I'm going to try to change the angle just a bit. And I might even think about something like that, which would be kind of a root over rock cascade with that big ball of stuff showing there. But actually I don't think I'm going to go that way. I do think I'm going to try to do something a little more like this and have this up quite a bit more from where it is. I'll fill the substrate up into there. And so that's about the angle I'd like it to stay at. I mean, of course, sometimes no matter what you do there, once you do actually start putting the substrate in and kind of getting it set, sometimes it just winds up going where it needs to. This rock is pretty heavy. And I think about another 3 years, about as long as I've had it this way, I get another 3 years angled this way, it'll be a really nice looking tree here. That's that side. And the other side. Alright, so that worked out pretty well. Turned out a little bit even better than I thought it would. And so, had a better grip on the rock on it than I thought it would. It went back into the pot a little bit better than I thought it was, a little bit steadier. I almost think maybe I had a couple ceramic pots I probably could have put it in for just so it'd look a little bit better, but At this point, it just is what it is now. It's in there. But so I did decide that, you know, I wasn't going to wire today, but I am. I usually don't defoliate and just wire. I usually defoliate, prune, and wire. But since I repotted, I want to leave the growing tips. Again, that signals the plant to grow the roots. I might even, you know, not even wire all the way out to the end, and then I'll just get in here and take all the old leaves off and just kind of wire out to, say, here. And then in a couple months from now, because this, I haven't done anything with this guy in a long time. I think I have just kind of, like, you know, I say a lot, hedge pruned it a couple times just to kind of keep it a little bit under control or whatever, but I really haven't done all that much with it. So I am going to get in here and kind of prune just a couple of these things off now that I know. I think this will be about the final angle. I mean, one day I might come a little more up like that, so it's not quite so much like a root over rock cascade. But sometimes with the weight of the rock, there really is only so much you can do. And a couple of these branches that gotta go. This one has to go. And I think, no, that might have been one of the ones I was planning on keeping there. A couple of these that are just kind of growing straight down now with this new angle that I have and I really like. That one. And that one. And then I really want that piece coming straight down. I thought about making that, in a way, this kind of is the leader out here. It's not growing quite as rapidly as everything else is. And of course it was at a completely different angle just a couple hours ago, but this one going straight up there. Now coming off this way here, this is a good bit of the foliage here, but two of these are bar branches, or two of these are, well, I mean, they're bar branches. I feel like I got to pick one to get rid of, and that would be this one. The other one actually has more foliage, but it's thinner. So I'll cut off this bigger one that should help create a little bit of taper. And leave the rest of that, at least until I wire it. Alright, so now go ahead and, like I said, defoliate a little. So I mean, my plan is here in a bit, I'm going to wire it. And since I have been letting this thing grow unchecked for so long, I've got a lot of nice long branches here to choose from. And I don't necessarily have to wire all the way out to the end. So I'm going to leave little clumps of foliage at the end of each one. Still think that one long one is too long and wasn't really fitting in with the rest of the plant. Alright, now and this one, I just kind of, it had some live growth coming off of it, but it was really kind of sickly looking. And then once I took that little bit off, it didn't look all that great. So I got this side defoliated about as far as I'm going to do. Then I got to work on this side a bit. Alright, and it's pretty much both sides, and now I'm going to kind of get this part here. And I would like to remind you that I'm doing this first weekend of fall in Florida, September 25th. I've got plenty of a growing season left here, even for when I cut these tips off. When I cut these tips off, I'll probably do that. I pruned off enough branches, and now that I've got it in a good substrate, this thing really should take off, I think. Especially this time of year. All of my ficus out there are getting huge growth spurts right now. And not only will, it'll really aggressively grow out of all these tips that I've left, but it'll start getting all kinds of back budding back in here and everything. And so once I see the back budding and or these growing tips these will get like really big leaves on them within, I'd say 2-3 weeks. I'll go ahead and out there and just tip prune the whole thing and then leave it alone until spring. And in spring, I really should have, I think this will really be something nice looking here by springtime. But I'm going to start putting some wire on it. I may still wind up taking that off. It's kind of coming straight up there, or I could almost even see making that the apex, because this is kind of a little bit too far out there. I think I'll go ahead and do that now. Why not? And then the only problem I really have is that this guy coming off here could also wind up being the leader, just simply because it's a thicker branch than this one is. But I could just kind of give that some time as well, and maybe even just look and see what it looks like here after I wire it up. Alright, so the more I look at it, the more I'm kind of happy with the way it turned out. So I figured this will be the front. You can see here where the original bark ended, and there was a bunch of potting soil in through here. It does have a root going off that way, and then it's got the main one coming off this way. This one has been exposed long enough to where it about looks like a tree, where it about looks like a regular part of the bark. But you can see the separation there. Hopefully some time will just kind of heal that up. I don't really want to go picking at that too much because it does seem a little rotten right now, but now that I got the potting soil away from it, it'll get some air in there, and hopefully it'll dry up and kind of flake off a little bit, probably blend in a little bit better. I was looking at where, this was the main trunk here, straight through here, and then this piece just kind of comes straight up, and this even a little bit larger piece shoots off to the side, which would be then going towards the front a little bit. So I did decide to go ahead and take off the slightly smaller portion that was still perfectly straight there. And again, I was pretty aggressive with the roots and stuff, and so with I definitely reduced a lot of foliage here, and so that should make it a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and start wiring it up. But now that I did that, I think I'll wire this one and the apex together, and I'll put some smaller wires on there. And then I can just kind of wire these together. I don't really have to get this main part. Probably wasn't going to move all that much anyway. Alright, I think that'll be it for this time. And let's go ahead and get these bent in a little bit here. Wire the apex. with this branch. Eh. If you heard it, that piece broke just a little bit, but it's right there. Wire's actually holding it in place there. I think it'll be alright. As long as I kind of remember that the next time I move it around. Now that I got, anytime I work on a tree I made a video of, I always check the video before I do too much to it. So hopefully that'll help me out with that too. And yeah, so there it is. I think it'll turn out pretty good.